Welcome to another exhilarating episode of the World Cup of Martial Arts Between Rounds series. I'm your host, Mike Petrarca, and today we're diving into the incredible story of Alivia Yum Yum Bierley, the bantamweight titan dominating the Fury Fighting Championship with a perfect amateur MMA record and an upcoming pro debut that's set to shake up the MMA world. Olivia brings more than just skill to the ring. She brings a spirit that can't be broken. From her early struggles to her rise as a champion, join us as we uncover what makes Olivia a true warrior in faith and fighting.
Hi everyone, welcome to the World Cup of Martial Arts Between Rounds series. I'm your host, Mike Petrarca, and today we have a rising star in the Fury Fighting Championship promotion on UFC Fight Pass. She is the bantamweight champion with a flawless 6-0 amateur record, 2023's Fighter of the Year, going 4-0 with 3 successful title defenses. She is a fitness advocate, and she is a woman of faith, but don't prey on her kindness because she be bringing that Old Testament fire and brimstone to her opponents. Making her long-awaited pro debut on May 12th in Houston, Texas, at 140 pounds, we have Alivia Yum Yum Bierley with us.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for being on. And Olivia, just for you, I don't do this often, but we got Texas in the house.
Oh, I love it. Yes,
so
Texas, y'all.
I'll put the hat on for you. It doesn't.
Don't make me go get my sparkly boots, because I will.
I was gonna go get my Stetson, but I said, you know what? I said this seems right. You know, this seems right. It reps all of Texas.
I think it's a nice touch. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. See, a New England boy can get down with that Southern hospitality.
Hey, it's almost like you're from here, right?
Right. So now, look, you got to clear something up for me, because I'm going to assume, or I'd like to assume, that you got the nickname Yum Yum because of how often you devour your opponents. But tell me the story behind your nickname, because I love that. That's a great nickname.
It's pretty original. I don't think there's any other Yum Yum besides the sauce out there. But yeah, it's funny. I get that question a lot, and there is a really funny little backstory behind it. So I've moved around a little bit. You know, I was in Chicago for a time, and then my work kind of moved me around, and I ended up in Texas. But originally I was in Dallas. And so one of my first ever practices while I was like trying out some new gyms and just trying to figure out where I want to be at, my coach, we were doing like a grappling session, and it was my second time or first time ever at the gym, but it was the first time doing the MMA fight team. And it was one of those days where there was a big storm, so the power was out. So the power went out halfway through practice. So coach was like, all right, we're just gonna grapple. And here I am, the only girl in the gym and the only one that was participating. And so I'm going with guys, and a lot of times guys at first, well, you know, they go gentle, which I get it. And so I was just taking advantage of right and left, and none of them could flip me. I was in dominant positions. I was getting submissions, and I could hear in between the rounds them like discussing between themselves, like, who is this chick? Like, she's strong. Like, did you go with her yet? Like, who is this chick? And for some reason, the coaches started calling me Yum Yum. And for the entirety of the time that I was there, he only ever referred to me as Yum Yum. I don't even know if it's their real name or not. And so finally, we were getting ready to make my my second amateur fight, and they asked like to put your fight nickname. And I always knew that I wanted to get my fight nickname organically. I didn't want to like give it to myself. And so I messaged him, and I was like, all right, so I got to know the story. Like, is this something like I can put, and like, is there anything I should know before I say that? Like, you know, I didn't know what it meant. And so apparently there's a movie, and hopefully anybody watching this, maybe you've seen it. There's a movie where it's based out of this like prison setting, and a new guy gets brought to the prison, and he's kind of being told about the different groups. And all right, over here's the car thefts, over here's the, you know, so there's different little subcultures in the prison. And I guess there's this one big, just scary giant dude who's off by himself. And the new prison attendee or whatever is like, all right, who is that guy? What's his story? And the guy's like, oh, you don't want to mess with him. That's Yum Yum. And it's like, why do they call him Yum Yum? He's like, well, the rumor has it he's a man eater.
That's
So
amazing.
yum, yum, the man eater.
That is amazing. And you said something that I know, like as being sometimes the only woman going into a male dominated gym. You're right. I mean, been in gyms and they tend to go easier on the women, and that's gotta piss you off, right? I mean, does that make you want to even show up even more?
So honestly, yes and no. I mean, I think there are biological differences. That's why there's a men's division. That's why there's a women's division. I am a very large woman. I am a very strong woman. So I do tend to get paired up with the men. And at first, I think there's a healthy amount of like, nobody wants to go with that guy that's like trying to beat up the girl or trying to prove a point. But I also think that once like at every gym I've ever been at, it typically is the same at first. It's kind of like, all right, they're feeling me out. But once they realize that I can like hang with the boys and I'm pretty strong and like, that I'm actually doing this for real, most of the guys like are pretty, like they go with me as if I was one of the guys. And a lot of times, like, size plays a part into it. If there's someone significantly bigger, like if it's a 6 foot, 200-pound male, yeah, he's probably not going to like go all out on me, which, if the roles were reversed, it would be the same. So I think the biggest thing is as long as there's like a mutual level of respect. And I think for the most part, guys, like once they train with me and they feel how hard I hit, most men tell me that I hit like a dude. Yeah. So I think it's usually 1 or 2 rounds and they realize that I'm not your average girl.
Yeah, you're not playing around.
No, I do this for real. Yeah.
Now I read that you were a gymnast, college basketball player, and so it seems that competition has always been a flame that's burned hot for you. But now, how did that passion make its way into the octagon?
Honestly, I didn't choose fighting. Fighting chose me. I think it found me. I have been involved in sports my entire life, and there's always been something that has like, something that's happened, whether it's injuries or just, losing the final round and not getting to go to state. So I never really had that like happy fairy tale ending with my sport. So there was always kind of like something where unfinished business, we'll call it. Sure. And finally, and it's mostly been team sports. Obviously, gymnastics is a very individual sport. And I got, that was something that I got injured. I got injured pretty badly, had to take some time off, started growing. So, when you are used to being 5 foot tall and doing a bunch of flips and then you take time off and now you're 5'7", it kind of puts an end to the competitive career on that side of things. So there's always that kind of like unsettled, like, I gotta make it. I want to go out like guns a-blazing, 2 belts on, that kind of thing. And one of my friends, we just started training, just kind of doing some basic kickboxing in my living room and in little small areas during the pandemic because everything was shut down. So you can't really like, have a squat rack in your living room, but you can, do some pad work. And it was really fun. Like when you're really strong and you can like hit something really hard, it's kind of exciting. Oh yeah. So finally, when the gyms did open back up, he's like, you need to come to my MMA gym and see how there's some girls there, you should see how you compare to them. Yeah. And the competitive nature. I mean, it was only a matter of time before I fell in love and became obsessed with it. So once I set foot in there's no going back. I kind of knew it. So it was like 4 or 5 months later that I actually did my amateur debut. So we kind of like jumped right in.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. And now your pro debut was scheduled for March 24th, correct?
Well, originally we were going to try to make the debut back in November. That ended up being the third title fight. Yeah, because we just couldn't find anybody for the pro. Yeah. But there was a girl who wanted a shot at the amateur title. So we just ran it back with that. So technically it's like 3rd time's the charm. But I do believe that, God's timing is always right. So there's a reason that March wasn't it for me. But just know, May, I'm ready. May, we're ready.
Well, I was just saying now how much of a buzzkill has it been having to wait, stay in camp longer, and do you feel even better prepared now? The same? How is that for you?
So I think one of my biggest advantages is I love the process as much as the like outcome. I love the training camp. I love just the discipline, the dedication.
Not many fighters, I think, say that.
It's weird. Yeah, I love the weightlifting, the 60. To some degree, obviously, in the moment, it's kind of like all right, this not having to count calories or get up extra early or things like that. But if I really like am honest with myself, like I love progress, and I think that for me, I make the most progress when I'm in a camp because there's a purpose. You're doing it for the fight. So for me, the fight that my opponent backed out a week before. So I had already like gone through my entire camp and made a ton of progress in the meantime. Yes, it's very disappointing because of the sponsorships and the fans and family that flew in and all of that. But I do feel like, even though I didn't get the actual like experience of being in the cage, I am fully ready. I've now had 2/3, fight camps for my pro debut. And each time, there's a different theme or a different thing that we're focusing on. And each time there's a different skill set that's being developed. And all it's doing is making me more and more mentally prepared along with being physically prepared for it.
Well, and that was my question. How do you mentally stay at that fight ready level throughout all of that? Because you basically, a week before, you basically worked up a lather in the back and you're ready for your ring walk. And then, there's got to be a little bit of a come down, no?
I would be lying if I said that I didn't have like 3 to 5 days of just being like super disappointed. Because that's like the fun part. And I did have teammates that still fought, so I was still at the fights. And it was weird because, while I was there, yes, I was enjoying, my teammates and supporting them. But there was that kind of pang or that sting of like, that should be me. I should be out there. Because I'm someone who I'm like head down, full speed ahead. Like, let's just keep moving. So that part of it was a little challenging. But I think that's just kind of part of the fight game, and I think that even though it was a little bit disappointing, it's just like that mental toughness of like, you've got to stay ready. You got to take it for what it is. And for me, it's like, it was a very valuable lesson of all I can do is control my actions. I can't control other people. I can't. And when you're in the cage, it's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of things that kind of can go out and not go as planned, but as long as like I'm staying on top of the things that I have power and control over, I have confidence in that.
And I think that's really well said. And Olivia, why do you think people keep backing out when they're supposed to fight you? I know you talked about being a hard hitter, right? They feel it. I've seen your fights. Once you find that range, sometimes it takes a little bit, but once you find it, you come on like a tornado. And then when you get that rear naked choke in, I've seen that it's like a boa constrictor, and it's pretty much game over. So, and I believe that you said in the past, it hasn't been injury related that they backed out, correct?
No, was not injury related. It was more mindset and emotional, and whether or not they were. But the first girl backed out and hopped on another card with another opponent the week before my fight. So it wasn't injury related. So, I think that it means that I'm doing something right. Obviously I had a very successful amateur career, 6-0, most of which were finishes. The unanimous decisions, I think, won every round. So I have won in dominant fashions. And I think that probably has some degree of it, thinking as a pro, this is when the record matters, and to be fair, it's like, I don't have any pro experience. So a lot of girls that maybe have 3 or 4 pro fights, that's a fight that they should win or, on paper should win. So it's a lot for them to kind of risk with not a whole lot to gain. And I am very physical, I am methodical as well. I do take time to kind of find the range. I'm smart about it because obviously I want to win, but I'm not afraid to get hit. And I think anyone that watches some of my fights realizes that I get hit and keep coming forward, or it doesn't necessarily phase me. So I can take a punch just as much as I can throw 2 or 3 right back. So I think there's a little bit of the physicality side of things. There's not a lot of women that maybe have the weightlifting, strength and conditioning, that muscular background to it. But then, I think there's also some respect that comes from the camp that I'm in and the people that I train with. So I think it's a little bit of both, but I don't want to speculate too much. I think that there's something to be said obviously about it, but at the end of the day, it's like, I can sit here and boost my ego and tell myself whatever it might be. They backed out for whatever reasons that they backed out. But I'm still moving forward. So, I'm sure everybody has their reasons. I know that I'm a tough opponent. But if you really want to do this, it's like, you have to welcome those fights.
All the greats do, right?
Yeah, right. I would rather lose to someone and get better and take really tough like fights as opposed to just blaze through people with no experience that aren't actually going to do anything with it. So, but that's just me. I mean, I'm trying to make it to the UFC and I'm trying to, get the belt around my waist. So that I think it's a little bit of that too.
I know I've seen, I think I've seen a picture that in sparring, did you get a little blood going there? I mean, it looks like I saw that and I said, okay, I got to ask you about your sparring because it looks like you get touched up in sparring more than you do in the actual cage by your opponents.
Yeah, pretty much every fight camp I've gone into the fight looking for, and I've come out of the fight. I'm gonna knock on some wood there. Not that I want that to change,
right?
But I feel like that's part of it. Like we do very intense camps, and we're using small gloves. So the funny thing was, if anyone should have pulled out for the fight, I had stitches in my eyebrow. I literally had
that looked like a pretty nasty cut. I don't know how before the fight that was, but
less than 2 weeks. Yeah, less than. Wow. I literally had the stitches taken out like right before the fight. So I knew, and I had already prepared like my family, like, hey, if I do get hit, it'll probably open back up. Doesn't mean that So I knew that going into it, but that's just kind of something that you just have to roll with the punches. My fight back in November, it's always a week before that crazy things happen.
Yeah.
The week before I woke up and I had cracked my tooth in my sleep and I had an emergency root canal the week before my fight.
Jeez.
So
maybe it's good luck. Maybe you got to have somebody do something to you this time around.
Right. Yeah. If there's nothing going on next week, I might go looking for some trouble.
Do something risky.
Something risky, right?
Well, you gotta give your cut man a fruit basket or something.
He does a good job. He did a good job.
And now this time for your pro fight, you're fighting at 140, which I believe is 5 pounds more than previous. How are you feeling at 140? And did you have to make any changes in your training?
No, honestly, like I walk around at like 160. So I cut a lot of weight anyway. And for me, like my last fight, I weighed in at 135, and then when I stepped back in the cage the next day, I was already 156. So I kind of have that, that Kayla Harrison where, we both, when you have a lot of muscle, you can retain a lot of water. So I've got the nutrition and like I was pre-med undergrad. So my whole background and exercise, all of that kind of has helped out outside of the cage, just knowing what to fuel my body with and how to manipulate water, the gut content elimination. So I've got that all down to a science. And I think with this one, I'm going to treat it like a 135 fight and just cut less water. So I'm still like cutting the body fat the same, but now it'll just be 5 less pounds of water weight that I cut. So that way, instead of 3-minute rounds and 5-minute rounds, that's less of, that gas tank issue. So that's going to be kind of my thought process because I'm already mentally, like I've been on it so my diet's still the same as if it was a 35er.
I see. Okay. And now your opponent, it looks like Maya Stewart, 1-2 in her pro fights, got a win recently this past March. Obviously not much of a sample size. Any scouting that you've been able to do on her, or does it really matter when it comes to your training because you focus on your own game plan no matter the opponent?
I think so. For me, I mainly focus on my game plan going into it, being aware of like where I'm open, my weaknesses, things that I need to improve upon, like wherever I'm exposing myself to getting caught. That's kind of my focus always. Now, granted, if I know that she's going to wrestle or if I know that she's going to box, there is a little bit of strategy to it, but that's what that first round for me is. I see how because how you fight somebody else isn't going to be how you fight me because I'm not the last person you fought. So I don't want to get too hung up into that because I think expectations, you go into it with this expectation of she's going to do this. And then if she doesn't, it kind of like, there's that mental side of things too. Yep. So for me, I like to think that I have a little bit of fight IQ while I'm out there and just seeing how she responds, how she treats, some of the things that I'm doing. And then that second round, we're finishing the fight. That's kind of my thought process. I want to get in, do what I got to do, and then get out so I can get ready for the next one.
Sounds good. So yeah, you're very active. What did you have 4 fights in 11 months last year?
Yes. And I would have had more. I just, it's just getting people to, it's getting people, as long as I'm physically fit and healthy, like I love it. It's not about having obviously you got to take care of your body on the back end, but Yeah, I'm down to fight every 3 or 4 months as long as I got somebody to fight.
Old school, Olivia. Old school mentality right there. Not a lot of
You're
people
gonna be a
do that
fighter.
these
You
days.
gotta fight, right?
I like it. I like it. And now I heard that you once said you're a firm believer in iron sharpens iron. Which people have helped sharpen you to perfection this training camp?
Well, I've got to give a lot of. I actually just left working with my coach, Pete Spratt. He, used to fight in the UFC, and he's got a lot of success under his belt, and he really knows what he's doing. So I really want to give a lot of credit to him, because from the very first day that I walked into his gym, I don't know, almost 2 years ago now, I think he's matched the effort that I've put into it, and so he knows that this is something that I want to do, and he's he will put in the time to help get me where I need to be at, but he also keeps it really real with me too. It's not like, hey, great job with that win. It's, hey, you messed this up. Hey, we need to fix this. And that's what I need, like, granted, the win's great, but that's in the past. Like, we got to keep moving forward. Right. So, I have a lot of respect for him, and I think we have a really good, like, kind of back and forth style. Like his coaching style goes right along line with my athlete style. So definitely him. And then Coach Ray, has really kind of broken things down and helped me maybe with like the wrestling and the wall work and the grappling side of things. And then I've actually been doing a lot of cross training with a professional boxer here in San Antonio. She's actually fighting next Friday.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, she's right around my weight class, and so her name's Brittany. She'll be fighting here in San Antonio Friday on the 3rd, I think.
Very cool.
So definitely been appreciative of her and my teammates. I have several teammates that are going to be fighting, not only in May, but then again in July. So we've got a pretty active camp. We've got a lot of jiu-jitsu people that are competitive year round too. So if I have a grappler that I'm going against, I'll get a lot of grappling runs in with some of the black belts that train at my gym.
Excellent. And how has the transition been for you? Because I believe you start off as more of a grappler, and then how has it been to try to get a very competent and lethal stand-up game?
Yeah, so definitely it was, I think, originally known for like the wrestling side of things and just my style, but Pete's very Muay Thai, boxing, striking. So, working one-on-one with him, you kind of mesh and just, sorry, my dog is being
That's okay. I'm so surprised mine hasn't come in. Don't worry.
Yeah. I know, I was sitting a little closer to the had him outside, and he's no longer distracted. So I'm not a mom, but I'm a dog mom.
I hear you. I hear you.
But yeah, so he's really worked a lot with just cleaning things up. The power's there, and I think once the technique comes and continues to improve, it's only a matter of time before I'm getting knockouts. The power's already there, the strength's there. I just got to get the placement and the timing right. And that's what we've really been working on is, hey, look, you don't have to throw full power. You've already got the power.
Right.
Just make sure that you're timing it, setting it up, and then placing it where it needs to be. So I think, and now I think most of the times people think of me as a striker because my past few fights, even though I've won with submissions, it's because I've set them up with my strikes.
Well set up. Yeah. I saw those flurries. Once you get going, you hit precisely.
So I think that's kind of the big thing is, like, I think my striking sets up the opportunity for the ground game. And once someone gets cracked with a punch, they move differently. So.
Oh, yes. And now there's one thing I got to ask, because I have some personal experience on a very lesser level, but how do you balance training with your full-time job? Because I remember I work about 60 hours a week. I trained for an amateur smoker, at the local gym, 100 people, nothing big, but it was every night to get down about 20 pounds in 3 months, 2 hours, 8 to 10 p.m. after my workday. And I want to try to do it again, but I don't know how. You're doing it not at the level that I did. You're doing it at a pro debut level and a high level amateur. How the hell do you do that?
That's sometimes I got to ask myself how I'm doing it. It is challenging. And I think that it's not obviously something that's going to be like sustainable forever, because you can only burn the candle at both ends for so long. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I do have a job that I am passionate about. And I feel like when you're passionate, when you like mentally and emotionally like what you do, it's one thing for, a job to be physically taxing, but if you're like emotionally drained and you're coming home every day, like, I hate my life, I hate my job, then it's going to be very difficult, because fighting is also very emotional.
Right.
I do work 6 days a week. Actually, I was working this morning. I work about 50 to 55 hours, and I'm, bounce between 2 cities.
Yeah.
But I think where there's a will, there's a way. At the end of the day, it's like, it's not the cards that you're dealt, it's how you play them. And so I'm very strategic with making sure that, when I look at my travel schedule, or when I set up my travel schedule, I plan, okay, if I'm going to be here on this date in this city, what gyms are in the area, what can fit around my training, and I prioritize around that. And so that way I make sure that I'm getting, at least my 3 or 4 days of like very intentional fight MMA training. And then I can get up at 5 a.m. if I got to get up at 5 a.m. If that's the only time that I can squeeze in sauna conditioning and mobility, then that's when we're going to do it. If I have to do 8 p.m. lifting and strength training, that's when we're going to do it. It's all about making the choices. And it's not easy. It's, it isn't, but you have to choose to do it. If this is the path that I'm seeking, then, you can't complain about your plate. You can't complain about your plate when you're asking to eat, so that's kind of where I'm at with it now, is like, I know that it's going to pay off. And I try not to get too hung up in, oh, I'm so busy, I'm so overwhelmed, and I got all these things going on, but more just thankful that I have a job that allows me to make money to pay my bills while I pursue fighting. And then I'm thankful that, things are going well on the fighting side, that I have a fight. So it's like, you just got to change your perspective on things, because I think we're very capable as humans of doing more than we give ourselves credit for. Hundreds of years ago, like, simply eating food, you had to go hunt something, kill something, and then so it's like, I just kind of we take all these things for granted, but life's really not as hard as I think as sometimes we make it out to be.
And we can change our perspectives, reframe things, and be more resilient people, for sure. And how do you make sure that the pockets of time that you do have, you maximize that time with your loved ones, your family, friends, and then also what types of things do you do to de-stress?
Well, Sundays are definitely my de-stress day. It's my one day off from work. So I try to, do anything but be at that gym, at the gym. I usually will do church with my fiance. We'll go to church. And I think it's important that, obviously, I think that's the foundation of everything. If God's at the center, everything else is in the right place at the right time. So that's very important to me. And then as far as because I live in Texas, and most of my family are not in almost none of my family is in the same state as me. So when I am traveling for work, there's times that I'm in the car and I can call my mom, call my dad, call my brother, call my sister, and just see how to make sure that I'm getting that family time as well. And then my dogs, I'm sure you heard, I have 2 dogs, not just one. There's only one barking, but I live right near a trail. So on Sundays, instead of going to the gym, taking the dogs to the trail. I love being outside. Texas is just beautiful, 85% of the year.
Don't rub it in, okay? You don't have
85%, it's like 75 in the winter here. So definitely, God bless Texas. So just little things like that. And just, I'm not going out a lot. I don't really do, other than going to fights, I don't really do much else, because I'm always on the run and always on the go. And I get my social, that social itch scratched when I'm at practice with my teammates, or, going to events with my sponsors. So there are some things, obviously, I don't get to do and be a part of, but that's my choice. I don't think that I'm missing out on anything. I think I'm choosing to pursue something that gets me closer to the person I want to be in next year.
Right. Yeah, it's a sacrifice, for sure. And, I think you'll be very successful, because you seem very, very driven, and, got your track on that UFC bantamweight title, which I know is very
Kayla Harris better watch out.
I love it. Well, okay. So that brings me to kind of like a fun question. I'd love to ask you is, what type of opponent do you think is going to bring out the best in Alivia Bierley? And do you have a fantasy matchup when maybe you allow yourself to dream a little bit about the future?
Well, I don't know. I think that because I don't have a background in any one specific area, it wasn't like I started off in boxing. It wasn't like I started off in wrestling. I kind of feel equally, comfortable on the feet or on the ground. I do feel like, obviously if I were to go, I've been doing a lot of training with a boxer recently. So I do feel like maybe having someone with that style would be really really fun. I think people like to watch the striking. But people really haven't gotten to see my wrestling. So it might also be, fun to go against more of a striker, and, they don't feel as comfortable on the ground. So taking advantage of that and like really getting to showcase not just the submission, the quick finish, but showcase, hey, like I can be on the ground. We can cuddle aggressively if you want to call it that. So that, I think that would be fun. But as far as like a fantasy, or I don't really think that any of it's fantasy. I think that anyone that's on that roster like is someone that I am going to face one day, as long as they don't retire beforehand. And whoever's got the belt is who I want to fight. I want to fight the best. I guess in terms of like just from watching it, and I have a lot of respect, for Kayla Harrison and for Holly Holm. That fight, I was very invested in that fight.
Great fight. Great fight.
Well, and to be honest, I wish that Holly would have, utilized her boxing more, because Kayla's just a phenomenal. She's very strong. She's a big girl, and her judo and wrestling is very, very good, and that's what she's known for. So I do feel like it would have been a little more entertaining if Holly would have made her work for the grappling portion of things, kept it on the feet more. Not that I don't think Holly could have grappled with her, is a great grappler, but I think that fight could have been a little different than maybe what it was. And I'm curious to see how Kayla responds to someone of Holly's striking and her pedigree, if she would have made her stand and box with her a little bit more. Yeah. So, I know that she's kind of like, it seems like the UFC is really pushing her. And so if she's next, then like that's me. Like that's who's next for me then. Not obviously immediately, but that's kind of down the road whenever I do get there, and it makes sense. That's who I want to go against, is whoever's got the belt around their waist.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love it. I can't wait. I think
I can't wait either. Every day I feel like it's just more and more real, more and more real.
You better, you better not forget about good old Mikey P here. And
hey,
you gotta give me another interview when that happens.
That's true. Maybe I'll be in a better location where my dogs won't be interrupted all the time.
So give me
guys, this is what we deal with.
That's it. Hey, we got to. I mean, my dog hasn't come in yet, but she's a joy when she comes in. But see, I got the treats. I loaded up the treats in her little puzzle thing, and she's satisfied.
I put peanut butter, and I can see he just got bored. The little one doesn't care about food. My lab, on the other hand, he could never have enough food. But he's the one that's being good right now.
He's being good. Last thing I want to ask you. So, all right, fight day, fight night. What is, if you have one, a pre-fight ritual for the day, or just before you walk out? What do you do to get in the zone?
Yeah, so every single fight, I've always FaceTimed. We do a group. You know how FaceTime has this like group FaceTime?
Oh yeah.
So as we're my fiance always drives me there. That way I can kind of get on FaceTime, and I'll get on FaceTime with anyone who's not already going to be at my fight, and we say a group prayer. And I think that for me is like, obviously whatever's going to happen, it's what it's in the plan. So pray for safety for everyone involved. And, obviously there's going to be some cuts and bruises and things like that. But I think that for me, it's like, I just have faith that like, I don't, there's not any kind of fear. Like, I feel like you have to let fear in. So that for me is always really reassuring. And that's like a super important part. Like, it's non-negotiable. My family knows, like, hey, be available. Like, we're going to do this call. So that's always on the way to the fights. And then whenever I get there, obviously meeting with my coaches and kind of going through all that, but there's a couple songs that I will always listen to, and they're not like the pump up hip hop rap songs. It's like worship, very slow, like, because I just want to be in the moment. And I do have a verse, and it's the one that's on my shirt here, Psalms 144:1. And like, I just recite it over and over and over and over. Like, he prepares
like
my
a meditation, like a mantra, like a.
It is, yeah. And I do feel like, I don't know. I just feel like in that moment, like, I'm exactly where I need to be. I'm on the path that God has set out for me. And it's like, this is my calling. I genuinely feel like it's bigger than me. It's bigger than the fight. It's bigger than getting my hand raised or whatever. Like, silly little goals that I have for myself, right? I think that there's a bigger purpose in the grand scheme of, I don't fully know what it is yet, but I genuinely do feel like God is calling me down this path. Because why else would I, at 24 years old, find this sport and decide to, start doing it? And then 3 years later, here we are, 6-0, making my pro debut. It doesn't make sense. But, that's God. That doesn't have to make sense. So I feel very grateful and blessed that it's something that I also love and am passionate about. And to whom much is given, much is required. So I've got big shoes to fill. And that's kind of what drives me every day, is knowing that there are plenty of people out there that would love to switch places with the opportunities that I've been given. So that's what motivates me daily, is knowing that it could be taken away at any moment.
And that's why it's so precious. And, these opportunities, I think, you handle with amazing care. I've been really excited. I know it's taking us a little bit to link up your busy schedule. I know how that is. Thank you so much, Olivia, for taking the time in perhaps, the most, or at least one of the most important training camps of your life, to come, chat with me for a little bit. And I have no doubt that you're going to one day be the next bantamweight UFC women's champion.
Absolutely.
Drive.
Well, and hey, I expect one of those hats. I'll get you one of my shirts. I need one of those hats.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll send you this one. I think I told you my soon-to-be, I have a fiance too, so my soon-to-be father-in-law came up. We just got a house, and he helped up with the house, because boxing is probably the only stereotypical manly thing that I do. I watched it, had a beer while my fiance did things. But he got these hats, so I'm sure he'd be glad to give me another one. So we'll have to link up after this and swap. And then next time I have you in for an interview after you become big time with your pro debut and everything, then I'm gonna proudly wear that shirt. You better believe
All right. I got a lot of different options. My guy Kirk has a nice little options for you there. So I'll have to let you know which one you want to pick.
All right. I like it. I love some good athletic swag, for sure.
Gotta get you some yum yum swag, right?
Yes. Well, thanks so much, Olivia. Big fan, and good luck in your pro debut.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to today's powerful episode of Between Rounds. It was a privilege to host Alivia Yum Yum Bierley, whose journey from adversity to the top of the amateur MMA world inspires us all. Olivia's story reminds us that with hard work and heart, any obstacle can be overcome. Remember, keep pushing, keep persevering, and never miss an episode of Between Rounds, where we bring you the most compelling stories from the world of martial arts. Until next time, I'm Mike Petrarca, reminding you to fight hard and live passionately.